Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. One of the best ways to ensure food security in any country is to guarantee all year-round food supply. However, local farmers across the country often complain that unpredictable rainfall is the cause of low crop yields and food shortages. Now, this is usually common in the dry season when the average rainfall is less than 60 millimeters. Now, limited rainfall together with inadequate water resources have led to high prices for many agricultural products during the dry season. One thing to keep in mind before cultivating dry season farming crops is to check for those that have a ready market and are in high demand. Now, to discuss this matter tonight, we have experts in the studio who will talk on farming enterprise. But before we get to that discussion, let's see this report put together by agriculture correspondent Musa Baba Aliu.
These are representatives of women smallholder farmers in Nigeria. They are here in Abuja to brief agriculture journalists on the impact of the 2022 flood on farming activities.
I've lost everything, as well as the
Mary Afa speaks on behalf of the group.
The implication of this massive flooding is that the prices of food will get higher owing to its unavailability. This will deal a great blow on the over 90 million Nigerians currently living below the poverty line and over 21 million Nigerians currently experiencing acute hunger. At the moment, smallholder women farmers have lost everything. There are no seeds to plant during the next farming season. While some farmers are gradually returning to their homes as the water recedes to pick whatever is left of the destruction, others cannot go back home or to their farms.
Just a few ago, their male counterparts hosted journalists on a similar mission. They emphasized their readiness to commence dry season farming as the flood water recedes in their communities.
Despite the gains, we are currently being undertaken with a myriad of challenges for which we seek urgent government intervention. These challenges range from insecurity, such as Boko Haram, banditry, and kidnapping, then lack of consistent access to affordable finance, unavailability of quality inputs, skyrocketing prices of input, high post-harvest losses, fragmented and unstructured market, and dangers associated with negative climate change.
Investigation reveals that the Central Bank of Nigeria did not provide funds for the 2022 wet season farming under the Anchor Borrowers program. However, officials handling the program explained plans for the 2022-2023 dry season farming. Yusuf Yila is the director in charge of development finance of the Central Bank.
Dry season program, we have initial strategies to do 700,000 hectares, of which wheat is 250,000, rice is 400,000, and maize is 50,000. Maize typically we do in the wet season, and we have enough strategic reserve to be able to, stabilize prices next year and even 2024.
As subscribers of the CBN Anchor Borrowers program await the release of funds, I went around some states to see how prepared farmers are for the dry season farming. I met these farmers in Biu local government area of Borno State, preparing for the cultivation of vegetables. Preparations for rice planting have reached advanced stage in Niger, Kebbi, Sokoto, Jigawa, and Kano states.
I just approved the first trench to do what we call residual moisture farming. This is to use fast-growing seeds in areas where the floodwaters have receded. The moisture there is enough to have this grow, and then the dry season itself come after the residual. And we have harnessed some of the floodwaters to be used for the dry season farming for irrigation.
Nigerian farmers are largely producers of rice, wheat, and vegetables under the irrigation system of farming. The major challenge this year to most of them is the high cost of fertilizer and that of petrol to run their water pumping machines. The hope of most of the farmers during the wet season has dashed by the flood this year, while the dry season farmers are hopeful that scarcity and high cost of fuel will not destroy their plans. Musa Baba Aliyu.
Right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests. I'd like to welcome to this program Engineer Abdullahi Garba Abubakar, is Director of Federal Department of Agriculture, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Let me also welcome Princess Shola Amushita, President, National Wheat Farmers, Processors and Marketers Association of Nigeria. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're also joined tonight by Bello Abubakar Anur Funtua, President, Maize Association of Nigeria. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And let me also welcome to this program Shehu Muazu, Financial Secretary, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, Nigerians.
Well, we extended an invitation to officials of the Central Bank of Nigeria with regards to the Anchor Borrowers program, but so far there's been no response from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Welcome once again. At some point in time, this program becomes interactive. It means you can join in the discussion. When it is that time, we'll remind you of the procedure and the process. But for now, let's begin to examine the issues at stake. And we start off with Engineer Abdullahi Abubakar. Yes, the rains have come and gone. And with it, the devastating floods that wreaked havoc on farms and farmlands and crops.
Yes.
With the waters receding now and dry season in place, what are we thinking about and how are we approaching the situation?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Actually, the water has receded so far, and we have taken advantage of the receding water, whereby we have the residual moisture irrigation going on, and we have also supported our wheat farmers with some seeds. On Friday last week, the flag up was done in Bauchi to take care of the northeastern states, and then the other one on Monday, it was in Kano, where it will take care of the northwestern states. So they are benefiting from the residual moisture, and we are really planning so hard to see how we can take advantage of the dry season proper. All the inputs that are required, we are trying to put them in place so that as soon as the Christmas period is over, we intend to do the distribution of these inputs to farmers so that they can go into dry season proper.
Okay, we'll examine that in further detail. But let's come to the President of the National Wheat Farmers, Processors and Marketers Association of Nigeria. Easily the biggest crops we cultivate around Nigerian farmers through irrigation as rice, maize, wheat. And with what happened during the rainy season, what are we looking at?
Well, for the wheat farmers, we know mostly we do our planting October towards the Harmattan season. What the federal government did in importing new seeds was to try to do seed multiplication to the central bank and did a sample test run of the raining season multiplication. These were done in controlled environment, so I wouldn't say we had much of that. But the issues we had were most of our stock got flooded, our warehouses, in terms of the stock that we kept for the seeds for the new planting season, this dry season planting. We lost a lot of our seeds. We lost a lot of fertilizers that were kept against this 2022-2023 dry season. So right now, farmers are in a situation whereby we're scrambling to see how we can double check and find what to plant for this season. So the rainy season, the flood hasn't been good to all the farmers at all.
It's a tough one. So even though it wasn't bad for crops that had been planted already, your stock was washed away.
Yes. The way right now is that we're looking at, let's say this way, we're hoping the central bank, the federal government, can come to the aid of farmers and actually go ahead with seed distribution, fertilizers, so that we can continue the process that the government had started in terms of making sure Nigeria becomes self-sufficient in wheat production in the world.
Okay, all right. Let's go over and talk about maize. And Bello Abubakar Anur Funtua, President, Maize Association of Nigeria. I suppose the same question should go to you.
Once again, good Nigerians. The issue of the flood this year for 2022 wet season, it is something that was very devastating. Actually, our farmers were affected in the extent that they cannot even afford to bear the loss. So therefore, there is a shortage of maize production this year because of this flooding. And it's not only the issue of flood that affected the maize farming, because maize, as it is the major component for maize farming, is fertilizer, especially NPK and urea. So therefore, the prices of this fertilizer has raised to the extent that most of the farmers cannot afford to buy the fertilizer for maize cultivation. And also the other inputs that their prices was rocketed also affected the maize production. So therefore, if you look at it globally, the maize production was affected drastically in the sense that there is a shortage of about 25 to 30% of the expected yield for this year production.
All right, thank you. Let's go over to Shehu Muazu. Rice. That's the big one. And in spite of all efforts for Nigeria to become self-sufficient in this crop, a lot has happened, especially this year. So, Shehu Muazu, Financial Secretary of the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, did you fare any better?
The floods have come and they have left their devastating effect on the Nigerian plain. Everybody has seen it. Everybody is a witness to it. About 500,000 members of our association were affected. We cannot continue to lament, but our thinking is what we do. As an association, we have sensitized our membership towards a two-cropping cycle in this dry season. That is what we are hoping. Once the inputs are available, our members are ready to go into action.
Okay, straightforward. And so that's a place to go. While lamenting to some extent, it's time to look ahead and plan ahead. You started talking about it earlier on, but what should be done now that the dry season is here? So let's begin to get this in some more detail.
Yes, just as the Reform Financial Secretary has said, we have really get ready for the dry season. In terms of inputs, be it the seeds, the agrochemicals, growth enhancers, and all the necessary equipment that is required to prepare the land for irrigation. Where we have water bodies, we make sure that the land is prepared, just waiting for the time that the planting is supposed to take place. And from the ministry, we are trying to see that all the rice producing states get these inputs right at their doorstep, so that immediately the time has come, we will distribute them accordingly. Fortunately, we use farming clusters. Before we give individuals, but we realize we cannot get track of these inputs if we are giving individuals. So now we are using cooperatives and farmers associations to get these inputs intact so that we can even track the production and even to see what yield have we realized at the end of the day. There are different seeds for different ecological zones. So we make sure that the right seeds get to the right place because of the potential yield we are expecting. So this is what we are trying to do. In fact, we are preparing hard to see that we have really gotten this thing at the right time because time is of essence in agriculture.
In our initial commentary when we started this program, I said one of the things about dry season farming is to ensure that the crops you planting are those that have a ready market and those also. So first, what are the ones that are most suitable for this dry season?
Yes, just as we have mentioned, rice is number one because whatever quantity of rice you produce, you are sure of getting the market for it. And we also try to do wheat. Wheat, even though it's a dry season crop, but as has been said, we are trying to see how we can also practice the ones for the rainy season, particularly in two states, Plateau and Taraba. But all these crops, as we are trying to put them on the farm, we make sure that there is market for them, and we are trying to look at the whole value chain from the production to processing and value addition, then marketing. Maize also is one of them. We know maize is also for human and animal consumption because the poultry farmers also are interested in getting maize planted. So we are also trying to see that at least there are 6 crops we are targeting. That is the maize, the rice, the wheat, the soybean, and the sesame. The sesame and the soybean are good for export purposes, but not only export, even locally we are using them, like the soybeans for oil, and then the sesame oil is also very expensive in the world market. So we are trying to see that these 6 crops are highly promoted as import substitution, because if we have wheat and rice, definitely it will reduce our import tendencies. But the way we are going, we are trying to improve on the productivity of these crops in this country.
Now, the matter of wheat is especially tough because you hardly produce enough for the country, and with global events, not the least the Russian-Ukraine war, that has also taken a hit, and now the flood. So what are the strategies to start with this dry season farming?
Okay, let me make a quick correction here. From our start point in Nigeria, the Russia-Ukraine war gives us an opportunity in Nigeria to then become self-sufficient, because now they banned their own export of wheat. The federal government, wisely, long before the war started, already started the banning of wheat importation. We already started 2 years ago with seed multiplication. We brought in the Bolong variety. We all know the Dulong variety doesn't actually give us as much hectarage in terms of, like, sometimes we get like a ton per hectare when we use the Dulong variety. But the new strain that was brought in from Mexico, the Bolong, is something that brings like 6-7 tons per hectare. It's an excellent crop. It doesn't grow more than this. Fantastic crop. Now, what we did, or what the federal government did when this came in, was to immediately do seed multiplication, because we want to be self-sufficient. Because you have to remember that Nigeria, or West Africa in the whole world, has the largest flour milling plant in a single location. That's the flour mill. And they do nothing less than 3 million metric tons of wheat flour every year. Right now, we're doing just about 60,000 metric tons. The disparity is massive. Now, the government has started, the way it was done with rice, to start us on in the process of being self-sufficient. We banned importation of rice, closed the borders. Federal government went massively into rice mills, funding them, funding the farmers. The same system is being used now for wheat production. We want to be able to produce wheat. We import $733 million, second to all, in wheat every year. This year alone, we're expected to import about $2 billion of wheat, of flour, just for the wheat flowers alone, the wheat farmers alone. Sorry, not farmers, the millers alone. Now, imagine that being conserved in Nigeria. So, the bottom line is the federal government is on the right path in terms of multiplication of wheat in Nigeria. This last season was the first season the full wheat planting was done. And totally, right now, you can check that with Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Based on what was done this 2020, 21-22 season, importation dropped by about 20%. That is the first year, which is unheard of under any association, under ABP. That's the honest truth, that wheat could do that much. And it was based on proper channeling, based on association, cluster farming, cross guarantees of all the farmers, total water pumps, every single input was given, and this was done. And we also had let me say the strategy was that there was a synergy, a strong synergy between the farmers, the wheat farmers, and the flour millers association, where central bank was the middleman, bringing all of us to the table. So there was a ready market for the wheat. They bought locally. And to us, that is a very impressive thing. We don't want to pat ourselves on the back. We'd rather pat the federal government on the back. But I think for the first year of wheat production, that is an excellent work. A lot of people might not accept that, but we're believing that by the next planting season, which is 2022-2023, this next season, we hope to be able to bring that down to like 50%.
Yeah, but then you would now have to more than double the matter of inputs, which of course you look into the federal government. So how far with the discussions and negotiations and the process of securing these?
Well, we're in touch with central bank constantly. Like the director said on the short clip that just came up, the government has approved 250,000 hectares for this 2022-2023 season. I want to believe most probably because of the floods, and so there's a slight stall in the whole process. So we're hoping that once the flood goes down enough, a bit, we are aware that seeds have already been moved to all the states by the central bank or the federal government. They've moved seeds, wheat seeds, for this new planting season. Inputs are slowly, gradually being moved. So we are getting ready. If you multiply 250,000 hectares by 6 metric tons per hectare, you know where we're going to. And that will then multiply again the next year. We hope that in another 3-4 years, the central bank or the federal government will be able to stop funding of the wheat value chain, of the wheat farmers itself, and we all go on our auto run by ourselves. So
okay. All right, maize, both for human and animal consumption, and maize is key to the food security of this country. So the president of the Maize Association of Nigeria will let us into how prepared they are for this dry season. And in terms of what the director spoke about, the inputs, the seeds, and of course the matter of fertilizer, which you mentioned in your earlier comments. We're very much interested in that and see how that can work through. And of course, we'll come back to the federal government on that matter. So, Bello Abubakar Anur Funtua, let's hear you.
For the preparation of the wet season, from the Maize Association of Nigeria, we have already commenced and we have gone far. Because every year we used to plant before the time because of the time bound. So therefore, we have already provided all the necessary requirements for the dry season, especially the issue of water pump, which is the most necessary requirement. And also this year we provided sprinklers. That is the modern water pump that is being used for the dry season or irrigation farming. because we cannot wait until when we get the any support from the government or CBN, because we have already brought into the right way that we can go ahead with the farming activities on our own, because we were taught on how to do it. So therefore, this year we have already planned and we have already commenced in so many states like Gombe, Adamawa, Bauchi, some part of Kebbi and Sokoto state. So the reason is that if you said that we are going to, like what the director said now, they have already prepared, they will now supply the inputs. So you see, for the maize production, the right time to plant maize is end of November, then towards this December ending. Once you didn't plant by end of December for the maize or early January, you forget about it. So that is why from our own side, we couldn't wait. And we have planned to cultivate about 150,000 hectares for the dry season. But because there is no any support I can say that come to our side for this season, so it is only on our own that now we are trying to cultivate at least 50 to 75 hectares, 1,000 hectares. But if you can get this support, either from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture on time, and also or either from the CBN, we are going to double and multiply what we have planned to cultivate. Because the issue of the maize production, maize, it is a very strategic crop in Nigeria. Not only in Nigeria, in the whole world. The director mentioned the use of maize for the human consumption and animal feeds. It doesn't stop to that level, because there are so many ways that maize is being used, maize and its bioproducts. Because apart from the food he mentioned and animal feeds, that is poultry and cattle, there is also medicine that is being used for medical, because the byproduct of maize can be used to produce medicine, even antibiotics, bandages, and even cough syrup. You can get it from the byproduct of maize. If you go to the other side, there is home uses. Home uses, you can get the carpeting, hand wash, hand sanitizer, and so on and so forth. Also, if you go to industrial, there are so many ways that maize is being used industrially. So, and also, if you go to the phone, also, you can get ceramic, you can get chalk, you can get glue, all under the maize. So therefore, the maize production is something that is very, very important, and it is very strategic crop, as how I have said earlier. So it needs very careful and attention. That is why from our side, we know it is a marketable crop that is being used for globally, and even economically, there is exportation of maize. So therefore, there are so many ways that maize is being used. So that is why from our side, we cannot wait, and we have already gone far. The only issue is that if we can get the support at the right time, even now, we are ready, and we will double our effort, and we have done it, and it is something that is physically and it is real. Because what you have done last year, or what you have produced last year, still we have the remaining maize for our what we have produced last year, that we are still selling to the maize millers or maize processors. So, but this year, because of this flood and the issue of the other factors that I have mentioned, that is why we have to rush to go to the dry season farming holistically. And we have commenced, and we hope that if there is the support that is going to be given to these farmers, let it come at the right time. So we have done our best, and we are still doing it, and we are still waiting, especially the support that is coming from the side of the CBN. If you look at it,
Right. Well, Director, surely this would be of concern to you. We're looking at halving what was planned for 2022, 2023 because of these factors. So how do you respond to this?
Well, I think I quite agree with him, but certainly we are trying to do a good plan in such a way that we are giving this seed to those we know. If we say we are going to just distribute seed anyhow, we may not be able to track the productivity. But just as he has mentioned, I will really be happy if the association can come forward to tell us where and how much quantity they require. We will be able to guide them and give them these particular seeds because we have it in stock and we are ready to distribute. But if they don't come forward, it will be difficult for us to look for them because there are other cooperative groups that are coming and we are going to give them.
From what he said,
Yes.
it would seem as if it's a race against time. December
It is not. It is not because of the variety we have.
Right.
It can still do well. As he has mentioned also, even January, it is still a good time. And since it is irrigated, you dictate what quantity, what time to irrigate. So it is not going to be too late. I want to assure him of that.
All right. Rice. Well, Refund celebrated a lot, and we all recall the rice pyramids. And so Nigerians would be right to look forward and expect that next year things would be brighter. But there are so many factors still that are standing in the way of that. So let's hear from Refund. How you earlier on talked about for the dry season. You say there are two harvest seasons. Let's hear you speak on that.
Our success was recorded in the rice revolution of Mr. President is as a result of the support from CBN. That is the Uncle Borrower scheme. But it is worth mentioning to you that the support from CBN has ceased. And this has definitely affected both rice and all other crops production under the ABP. You see, Cyril, it's only in Nigeria that you suspend a very, very important project that is aimed at achieving food security for a country. The ABP, as a matter of fact, has achieved all the cardinal principles it was set to achieve. It was set to achieve food production. Food was produced by the farmers who were supported at the time they were supported. It was set to commercialize agriculture. The farmers have turned from subsistence rice farmers to commercial farmers. It was set to achieve financial inclusion. Majority of the farmers that have participated are now having bank accounts and operating them. It was set to imbibe good agricultural practices to our farmers. Yep, they have imbibed it. It was set to achieve to provide jobs for Nigerians. It has achieved it. Yes, it has problem of repayment. And to me, that is not enough to suspend this program. Look, this is a program that all statistics has proved that it has succeeded. When you look at the yield per hectare, when we started Ango program in Nigeria, yield per hectare is 1 to 1.5 tons. As at today, the average yield per hectare of Nigerian rice farmer is between 4 and 5 tons. In fact, on very good agronomic practices, we have it a record, farmers that have recorded up to 8 tons. Mr. Cyril, it was, if you look at the contribution of agriculture, more especially the crop production aspect from 2016 to date, you will have seen an astronomical increase. By 2016, the contribution was 23% to GDP. 2017, it was 23%. 2017, it rose to 24%. By 2018-19, it was 25%. By 2020, it was 26%. That was the peak of Anko Borua program. But unfortunately, by 2021, the funding ceased and the contribution dropped to 24%. By this year, there was no funding. Contribution to the GDP based on the statistics provided by NBS was 23% across all the 3 quarters. So by the time we compute the 4th quarter of this year, if it did not fall below 23, then it's going to be below 23%. So you can see that the impact that the funding has generated on the GDP is so massive. Look, an increase of 3% on your GDP is not something that you can talk about. In the 7 years that the Anko Borua program has operated, the CBN says they have disbursed 1 trillion naira. Okay, 1 trillion naira, if you take 7 years, it is an average of about 142 billion per annum. What is 142 billion naira per annum to 3% increase in the GDP of Nigeria, Mr. Cyril? So I don't believe with all these successes. Look, this is a program that is well acclaimed. The United Nations, to be precise, September this year, the United Nations Deputy Director General of Food and Agricultural Organization said the Nigerian farmers should be commended. The smallholder farmers of Nigeria should be commended for what they have done to Nigeria in terms of rice production. But this is a program. I can remember during the visit of the president of Benin Republic to the Mr. President, sometimes 2021, on the sideline, he met with the president of Rifan. He commended the Nigerian rice farmers. He invited us to Benin Republic. We were at Benin Republic. Why he wants us to replicate what we did for Nigeria in Benin Republic. The ECOWAS High Commissioner on Agriculture was in our office to commend us on what we have done for Nigeria. Look, statistics have shown that this thing is a success. Commendations from world leaders have shown that it was a success. How can we abandon such a program? For God's sake. Yes, there is problem of non-repayment from the farmers, but have we achieved the set targets? Yes, we have achieved them. If there is problem, then what causes the problem? Mr. Cyril, this is a program that was given out without collateral. We can sit down, go back to the drawing board. If it is lack of collateral that is making the farmers not to come and pay, let us bring the issue of let's them collateralize some of their belongings so that we have the collateral on our hand. If you fail to pay, then we sell off your collateral and we redeem the loan. But throwing away just like that, stopping funding, look at the effect. Already the contribution of agriculture into the GDP is falling from the peak of 27% it has achieved in the year 2020 to 23% this year. This is not something that we can play about. So I think it's better the CBN wake up and they allow themselves to be blackmailed. Okay. Whatever people are saying, they know the statistics, we know the statistics, the entire world knows the statistics. The statistics are verifiable. In fact, it was as a result of this program that the Nigeria became the biggest and largest producer of rice in Africa, overtaking Egypt.
We cannot but wish that the CBN officials were here tonight to speak on this subject, but there you are. As we said at the start of this program, we extended an invitation to them, but we got no response. At this point in time, we'll take a few reports. Let's start off with this one from Kano State.
Data shows that Kano State has about 1.5 smallholder rice farmers alone who are capable of producing more than 2 million tons of rice per season. The farmers enjoy the benefits of the large water bodies the state is blessed with. This experts believe is enough to support the state to grow not only for consumption but for export.
Right now, West African countries are approaching Nigeria, especially using the Anko Borua's program to borrow a leaf from what we are doing so they can also improve their production. They are as well looking on to us to provide them with what they require for now.
This informed the federal government's renewed efforts towards utilizing the vast potential through renovation of irrigation facilities. Now more than 1,600 hectares of the facility has been completed and handed over to farmers.
We thank
the Almighty Allah and President Buhari for the gesture.
For the completion of this project, we had to travel far away, but now everything is at our doorstep. In addition to renovation of irrigation facilities, farmer-friendly agricultural policies of the federal government is also yielding fruitful results as farmers' morale was boosted towards growing more food for the nation. This led to the proliferation of integrated rice mills in Kano, enough to encourage farmers into producing more rice.
We have a production facility and our raw materials must come from the farmers. So we take them as partners in development and in progress, and we support them through inputs, through training, and ensure that the relationship is a win-win situation.
To meet up with the demand by ever-expanding rice milling industry and prepare for the next season, federal government recently organized a training program for rice farmers on best agronomic practice for maximum output. Apart from the training, farm inputs have also been given to the farmers aimed at cutting the cost.
The yields will increase. Maybe if we are getting 1-2 tons, 6 tons this year, by next year you may be able to double that yield.
Similar training was also organized for wheat farmers, where 5,600 wheat farmers received 50 kg each from the federal government with farm inputs and implements.
I really know that it will add more input. We are going to have a more yield this year.
The federal government has done the same. So remain with the farmers to now wake up and make sure we did right.
With these interventions by the federal government, experts are optimistic that Nigeria is heading towards self-sufficiency in rice production and has the potential to export to other countries, with Nigeria's wheat international demand now growing.
From Kano, we move over to Ogun State, from where our next report comes.
For a country to attain food sufficiency, farmers must engage in commercial farming all year round, and government must give necessary support. Ogun State government says part of its promotion of dry season farming is the clearing of several hectares of land in any area where there is water body close to dam for rice and maize farmers cluster, especially in Abuja area of the state. It is also encouraging use of 100 hectares of irrigated farmland donated by the federal government for rice farmers in Abuja, as well as provision of boreholes in several local communities for farmers to wet their crops. Aside the provision of intervention for rice and maize farmers, the state government is also focusing on support to the farmers to have more harvest in crops like tomatoes, onions, okra, jute leaf, among others.
So we're trying our best to, number one, enlighten farmers to engage in dry season farming. Is for the good of we as a state when it comes to our food security. It's also for the good of the farmers in terms of maximizing their profit. It's also good for the soil, because if you think about it, if you keep the soil moisturized, you keep the good bacteria in the soil, you make sure that the soil is healthy for the next season.
The senior special advisor to Ogun State Governor on Agriculture, Angel Adelaja Kuye, who said that dry season farming has so much benefit, noted that it does not only guarantee food security, but it is an ideal time for farmers to maximize profit because the demand is always high, as the state government will also continue to provide linkages for farmers.
And we also make sure that we go to them to find out what they need, how they're doing. We try to make sure that they're structured. We do encourage farmers to engage in dry season farming with irrigation.
A notable farmer from Igwa area of Yiwa North local government area of Ogun State says, although government has tried, especially in the provision of adequate training on dry season farming, there is need for more support in terms of mechanized farming equipment.
I'm a VCDP farmer that was trained on how to produce rice, cassava, and maize. Also, we have done so many trainings on GAD, that's good agricultural practices. Even the sour technology, I was part of the team that was trained.
while also calling for more banks to come on board to make funds more accessible to farmers. The Ogun State government said when fully operational, the special agro-processing zone, agro-cargo airport and linkages for farmers will not only promote an all-year-round farming in the state, but also position the state as an agricultural hub of Nigeria.
All right, those reports there stating the affairs. Now let's come to the question of the seeds. You started by talking about varieties that are, fit for the current dry season, and especially with reference to the maize farmers, saying that nothing is too late and they'll perform well. So here, let's look at the level of collaboration, cooperation, and support derived from research into these seeds and seedlings.
Yes, actually we have the National Research Institutes who are doing their best to come up with different varieties of hybrids in terms of rice or maize or any other crop for that matter. The research that is being done are all helping our farmers to adapt them at the right time. And we have also seen where we carry out capacity building to farmers to really educate them on how and when to plant these seeds. And they have been doing that, even though the adoption rate sometimes is very slow, because sometimes the farmers prefer to use the seed they have already. But we have been telling them that with the new innovations, the hybrid, you get more yield, which will really offset your cost of production. So with that, I'm sure they are taking it, and most of the farmers are now adopting the new technologies in terms of good agricultural practices, which is actually increasing their yield, and they are seeing it. So the research institutions have been bringing out a lot of different hybrid seeds, just like as I said about the rice. We have different varieties that can do well in different ecological zones. So also the maize. And not only that, the maize, we even have the one that are fortified with vitamin A now, which is also going to be very useful for us in terms of food security and nutrition security also. So all these researches, there are a lot of collaboration going on between the farmers and the research institutions. And we facilitate it because we make sure that we bring the farmers to a table where they can understand the reason why the researchers have done what they have done, so that it will be put into use by them, and we expect feedback from them in terms of whether there is high yield or low yield, or there are pests, because even the seeds now, we are trying to have the one that are pest tolerant, drought tolerant, and early maturing, in order to avoid maybe quilla bats infesting those crops at the end of the season. So all these are put into the research, and the farmers are being educated to see how they can make good use of these seeds.
You mentioned about some of the farmers still preferring the seeds which they have to the hybrids, and that's some form of resistance to moving on with the new technologies and how to get greater yield through hybrid. How do you navigate through this?
Yes, that is why we have the Federal Department of Agricultural Extension. The Extension Department are doing a lot to see that they educate these farmers on absorption of these new technologies. And they are doing that successfully because they are training the extension agents to make sure they go into the nooks and crannies of the country to make sure that they educate these farmers on the new varieties available. Some of them are resisting not because they don't believe in it, but sometimes because of cost and sometimes because of availability.
No, cost. We'll return to that matter of cost in due course. But tell us your experience with the wheat farmers.
Most of our farmers, after the 1987 banning of wheat. You know, actually government started this banning of wheat importation in 1987 and did it for 3 years. Subsequently raising the wheat production from 15,000 metric tons to 60,000 metric tons. Suddenly by the third year they stopped.
Right.
The ban was lifted, farmers were not encouraged again, so people started going into other crops. Farmers went into other crops. By the time we started going back into the wheat and getting back to the farmers, that look, government is serious about this. They're going to do this. Majority were totally resistant about it. They felt like, well, when we now go back again and start planting wheat, government will now come again and say they are not continuing. We had that issue. We kept encouraging them. Some, at the end of the day, when they have like maybe 10 hectares or 3 hectares or 2 hectares, they'll plant 1.5 hectares with maize and plant 1.5 hectares with wheat, like edging their bet 50-50, just in case. This first 1 year was a year of building farmers' trust again in terms of wheat farming. That look, Mr. President is serious about this. It's one of his crops, one of the produce, or one of the crops that he's interested in: rice, wheat, maize. Those were the major things he has put in a lot of effort in. So slowly, I think we've been able to get some of them to come in to understand that this will continue. This season, a lot of the farmers themselves are the ones now reaching out that, okay, we want to do wheat now. A lot of them already have their farms prepared, ready to plant. Some went ahead and did the durum variety since the bolong variety hasn't come yet.
Right, because I was going to say, what about the varieties? You talked about one coming from Mexico.
So because then they haven't seen that come, because that's a controlled one from the federal government. While the normal durum variety is the one that Nigeria has had for years, right from Sokoto. If you go to Goloyo's town in Sokoto, that was the beginning of where wheat farming processes, experiments started from. So it's a continuous process. But for this government of Mr. President, it's I think apart from the green revolution of the 1970s, this is the best time to be a farmer under this president, because farmers are actually encouraged to actually farm, to produce. They are given as much encouragement as possible. So for wheat farmers, so far so good. We now have a lot of converts now, but because this present seed isn't here yet, they've gone into
So
the old one.
The local varieties, look at them on hybrids, which you said this one is not readily available. How much research is going into this? Would you know? And how do you relate with research?
Yeah, the research institutes all going on right now. What we're trying to do, or what the government is trying to do, is to merge the durum high heat resistant variety with the bolong variety from Mexico, which is a faster growing seed, wheat, on a single strand of filament of the bolong variety. If you take one and you take the durum filament, you find that the one for the durum, our local one, usually you have like maybe 7 or 8 little buds on them. But you see the bolong variety, within, it's like weed. Within a short time, you find like 13, 14 on the head of a single filament, massively growing. So they're trying, right now, I think the Research Institute, what they're doing is trying to merge our own variety with this new, it's transfer of technology. China does it. Every country does it. So we're trying to transfer that now to get Nigerians to be self-sufficient in wheat, because apart from rice, flour is the next basic thing in Nigeria, which is bread and all that. So basically, I think there's a lot of synergy going on that it's being worked on.
Well, let's return to the maize farmers. And given the strategic position of maize that we have enunciated, it does follow that advances in research into maize would be something that your association would be quite interested in. So tell us from your perspective how you've carried on against the backdrop of all the challenges that you face now.
The Research Institute, we have a very good relationship and partnership with so many research institutes. Just to give one example, we are working with IITA Ibadan, ARCN, and then NERLS, ABU Zaria. So even from our own association, we have researchers, because Maize Association was formed by the maize scientists in 1990 at IIT Ibadan. So those researchers, they are the ones that are conducting research in collaboration with the other research institutes. For example, when these researchers look at the fertilizer we are using before, we are using the NPK 1515 or 2010. But in the course of their research, they now found out that the best fertilizer to be used for maize production is 271313, which we have started using it since 2017 up to date. Since when we have started using this 271313, our yield has increased with about 20%, because if you look at the rate of the composition of the fertilizer, formerly we are using 1515, now it's 271313. You can see there is a differences. Also, if you come to the issue of the seed, actually every year we are using the seed that is verified by these researchers, also accredited by the National Seed Council of Nigeria. They also, we are collaborating with them. Also, if you come to the issue of the herbicide and the insecticide, formerly, and what I can say traditionally, the herbicide that is being used before for maize, for pre-emergence, is this glyphosate, atrazine, and so on. So, but in the course of their research, they now found out the best herbicide to be used for maize production is this lagoon. That is the best one that is going to be used, and which we are using it now. If you apply it, it will last for about 6 weeks without any yield in your farm. So, and then also, if you come to the issue of post-emergence, also the one that we are using before, now because of the research they have now found out that there is another one that is the best for maize to be used for post-emergence in terms of maize production. So if you look at it generally, we are working with the researchers, and we have researchers already in our association that are working with this research institute. So actually there is a great development in terms of this research and the researchers between Maize Association of Nigeria and other research institutes.
All right, we'll take a break here. When we return, there'll be more on this matter of ensuring food security and the current dry season farming, the issues arising. We will also talk about costs and, of course, the question of fertilizer. So stay with us. We'll be back shortly, and at that time, you can now be part of the discussion in the studio. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back shortly.
157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we want to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and
Like I said, I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportation. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause. NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Now it's that time when you can join in the discussion in the studio. We remind you every Tuesday, if you're calling in tonight and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. We also encourage you to go straight to the point. We urge you not to bother too much about the greetings. Just a mere hello would do. And keep it short and simple so many others can get on the platform and air their views. So the numbers to call will be on your screen. Advise you take advantage of those. So now we start off with another in our reports. This one is from Ebonyi State.
Beneficiaries of different government policies on dry season farming were given a target of cultivating at least a hectare of land, which has resulted in the production of additional 1,600 metric tons of rice from the program.
We have done 80, we have done 170, we have done 666. Farmers who add up with accumulate 84 hectares of rice prices. So the program will also be giving rice seed 40 kg each for the benefit farmers. They will also give 4 bags of NPK each to the farmers and another 2 bags of urea fertilizer to the farmers.
With its focus on cassava and rice, the State Program Coordinator of International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, Mr. Sunday Tuma, said in 2022 alone, about 120 million naira was expanded on dry season farming, which in turn has positively impacted lives of farmers, increased production, as well as improved export of cassava and rice from 25 to over 40%.
Going by our crop area use survey, this will contribute nothing less than 1,600 metric tons of rice into the food supply chain of Ebonyi State. And that is tremendous. And the multiplier effect is also high. But this is only the production. Except the people doing production, it also translates to people that are processing it.
Good as this innovation is for the farmers, the hike in various farm inputs and fuel has remained a daunting challenge that should be tackled for the gains to be sustained.
If the fertilizer come down, the rice will come down.
The farmers who lauded the program, which has further strengthened the food supply chain, pray that all the interventions should be on grants so as to reduce price of farm produce and the hiccups often faced by farmers while trying to pay back.
All right, so back to the issues in the studio, and as we await the calls coming through, so you can join in the discussion here. Let's go over to the Financial Secretary of REFAN, the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, and of course, I do believe there's a lot coming out from that sector in terms of research and the varieties that we have now.
We continue to say thank you to the researchers in the rice sector. You see, the greatest threat to rice production are two. One, flood, two, drought. Thanks to our scientists, they have developed varieties that are drought resistant and they are flood resistant. So we are working with them and we are appreciating their efforts. And we call on the government to continue to give them the maximum support so that they will continue to develop varieties as is being done in other parts of the world.
So that brings us to the question of value addition. Some measure of success has been achieved there, but not as much as we'd like to see. And we do understand that within the system itself, there is some kind of sorry. Okay, so the calls are coming through. All right, we'll return to the matter of value addition, but let's get in our first call tonight. Shitu calling in. Hello, Shitu, go ahead.
Hello. I want to direct my question to the Director of Agriculture. I want to know what is their plan for the wheat project, and because we want the CBN have not been able to provide any assistance to the farmers, and the farmers are already in the farm. Some are already cleared, and some are already harrowing by now. So, what are the plans that you have so that we can have enough? Because this is the right time Nigeria must rise to make sure that we get wheat program on. We cannot depend on the international community, especially the Russia, and so it's a time for us as a country to take the bull by the horn. We have, if you look at Lake Chad region, where we have this wheat, it's one of the best in the world. What are we doing about Lake Chad region? So this is what I want the director to tell Nigeria, and then they must take the CBN program must go in consonance with the ministry. You cannot take Ministry of Agriculture and out of disbursing of fund to the farmers. That is where we got it wrong as a people and as a country.
Okay.
Ministry of Agri have trained people, they have trained farmers, they have trained even extended officers. These extended officers are being paid salary, and they kept them redundant. When you take money direct from the central bank and pay to the bankers, pay to the farmers, then the farmers that are getting this money to me, apart from the rice farmer that I see that go, the other sectors are not getting to the real farmers. So right now we must remodel our agricultural program that the CBN anchor borrowers should go in line with Ministry of Agriculture.
All right.
Thank you.
Right.
And I wish Nigerian the best, because we must take wheat very serious.
Okay.
It's a serious business so that we can supply to other African countries.
Right. Thank you, Shitu.
Ethiopia
The
are
director
beating
will respond to your the issues you raised.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Shitu. Actually, as I have said earlier, we have 15 states that are potential areas for growing wheat in this country. And as I have said, we have the northeast and the northwest. These zones, the flag off has commenced. We have distributed seeds at least to some sizable number of farmers. I would not say everybody has gotten it, but I know we have done that, as you can see even in the report sent from Kano. The wheat seed were distributed. And we are also following up with agrochemicals, growth enhancers, and when it comes to harvest, we will try also to bring in the required machineries, like the wheat reapers, and then we also look at the threshers and what you can use to at least store your wheat seeds. So we have done that in our own way. Unfortunately, as you have mentioned, the synergy between the ministry and the central bank is not that is wanted, because I was even happy if they would have come here, maybe would have at least put our acts together and then see how we can forge forward in terms of this issue of seed distribution and trying to even have the farmers get some finances to do some of the, as a working capital, to help them on the farm. But be that as it may, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is trying its own best within the confines of its budget to see what they can at least support farmers with. And I assure you, we are doing that and will continue to do that.
All right, we have another call. Yusuf calling in from Abuja. Hello, Yusuf, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. President. Good evening.
Yes, Yusuf, go ahead. Good evening.
Good evening, all the participants in there. My call is going to be directed with the director. Hello, Mr. Director.
Yes, Yusuf, your TV is still loud. I can hear the hurlback from the sound of your TV. So just turn it down a bit and then go on with your question or comment.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. So go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay. Thank you very much. My comment goes to the director as well. Okay. My question goes to the director as well. I would like to comment on the issue relating to the Anchor Borrower Scheme. Definitely, the Anchor Borrower Scheme has been a success, and everybody can witness to it. Right away from the cities down to all the villages, everybody can attest to the simple fact that really Anchor Borrower Scheme has been a success. But now the big question will go to the ministry now, because central bank have done their own best to provide the Anchor Borrower Scheme, and then there should be a follow-up from the federal ministry to ensure this Anchor Borrower Scheme actually continues. And how do they do it? Is there should be a collaboration between the Central Bank of Nigeria and also the federal ministry through maybe the federal ministry should be the leading aspect of the discussion through federal government to ensure that really the Anchor Borrower Scheme continues. Now, apart from ensuring the Anchor Borrower continues, what is the ministry planning to do to ensure that as we are trying to shift from the oil-based economy to a non-oil-based economy, and one of the best ways we can see is through agriculture, which we have vast area of land, and we have all the resources, both human and material resources, that we can go ahead with it. What is the federal ministry actually doing in terms of persuading federal government to ensure this successful program has not gone into drain? Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Yusuf. Right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Yusuf. Actually, the collaboration between the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and the Central Bank is long been awaited. In fact, there are instances, efforts are being made to see that the collaboration really take place. But the unfortunate thing is that the Central Bank felt they have the money and they give the money, so they dictate the tune. Unfortunately, the ministry had the technical know-how, and we try as much as possible to guide the game by its rule, trying to tell people that this is how it should be done so that it will be sustainable. But you can see now, at some point, the Central Bank are saying the recovery is poor, they may not likely continue. If we had been taken on board right from the onset to make sure that technically we are giving all that advice that we are supposed to give, I'm sure it would have been sustainable and there won't be any problem whatsoever. But the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, within its own limited resources, the budget that is given to the Ministry of Agriculture is still doing its own best, because the smallholder farmers are being supported. We try as much as possible to provide seeds at rollout on gratis to farmers, and we make sure that equipments are also bought and sold to farmers at subsidized rate. All this is being done to see that at least our farmers are able and capable of doing what they are supposed to do. But I'm sure if the synergy can come between the central bank and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Nigeria will go places in terms of agricultural production.
All right. So our next caller, Umar, one of the regulars from Birning Kebi. Hello, Umar.
Hello, Cyril. Good evening. The dry season farming is welcome development. In fact, there is no country that can boast of producing food for itself and its surrounding without government assisting the farmers. But this thing has led us to one popular saying in Hausa, Rijiya ta ba da ruwa, guga ta hana, which means the well has given us water, but the rope to fetch that water from the well refuses to cooperate. If the federal government want to assist farmers and they want to assist farmers, let's devise a means to deal with farmers directly. Just like the other contributors said, let the Federal Ministry of Agri be the supervisors. I believe if it is done that way, very, very much will be achieved. Not like Uncle Baroa in my state. It's just like giving it to the politicians to provide those means to their talks. We don't like it that way. If it is done through the Ministry of Agriculture, the politics will be removed and other protocols, other bureaucracy will be removed. Let the federal government have direct access with the farmers. Just like, that fertilizer wallet. It developed some program like that to deal with farmers directly. In that case, very much will be achieved. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Umar, calling in from Birning Kebi. Right, so these are the issues at stake, and we started talking about value addition and the fact that there have been reports of some form of protectionism where those who are already in it are shielding new entrants from having a foothold in there. Have you heard about such?
Actually, I have not. And I know the policy the Ministry of Agriculture has adopted. It is free for all. Normally, every year we buy agrochemicals, equipment from harvest and post-harvest equipment, and even irrigation equipment. And this equipment, as we buy them, we normally go for market survey to know how much is it in the market. Then we come back and try to apply subsidy on it, looking at the cost outside and subsidize by either 50% or 25%, depending on the cost of that particular equipment. And it is allowed for anybody that think he has need for this thing to just apply. When you apply, we assess it and then we give you what you ask for. And it is there for people to take. All the states, we have our stores all over the country. It could be maybe you don't have a particular equipment in that state, but you may have it in another state. So we can just give you and you go and pay. When you pay into the TSA, you go and pick your equipment. And it will help you to either prepare your land or harvest your produce so that you can even hire it to somebody. There are definitely those below the ladder who cannot even afford to pay. However, you subsidize it. But then they can pay a token to get a lease of that particular equipment to work for them. So this is what we are doing in the ministry since time immemorial. And in fact, it is yielding fruit because that is why there is a lot of proliferation of rice mills in this country. I know from 2016 till now, we have sold out more than 100 1,000 rice mills, from 10 tons per day to 20 tons per day to 50 tons per day and even 100 tons per day. There are people who have benefited. We have even gone to see their rice mills and they are performing very well. So this is what is even helping in the offtake of the paddy rice from farmers because of the rice mills that are available. So also in other crops like oil palm processing, we are also procuring those kind of machines, and we are selling it to people at highly subsidized. The same thing with cassava processing equipment. So you find out people are setting up these small processing equipments to be able to at least add value to all these products that we are talking about.
All right. We have Yakub calling in from Bauchi. Yakub from Bauchi, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, Mr.
Good evening, go ahead.
Okay, so I would want to so can you hear me?
Yes, Yakub.
Okay, so good evening to all the
Yes, good evening. Just go ahead.
I think it's quite unfortunate that TV is not here with me tonight, but I would have loved to hear what they have to say. I would want to commend EBN particularly and all the representatives of the various organizations there. I think it's the right step in the right direction. One thing I want to address with regards to what the previous caller woman said regarding dealing directly with the farmers. I think I like his idea, but it's simply not feasible. What these organizations are doing is the best Nigeria can do, because you need someone, these people, especially in Nigeria, need a paid to hold accountable someone to connect with. And I think that is where all of your guests come into play. And I think we are doing an incredible job, and I'm happy I stayed up to watch this program, particularly this season farming program. I would like to wish you Godspeed in all the endeavors you take, and I hope CBN will consider and continue the support it has been given. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Right, thank you, Yakub. Okay, so I'd like to bring in Rifan Financial Secretary at this point in time, just on the heels of the last contribution made by the Director of Agriculture. Yes.
Let us look at things the way they are. Anko Borrower program is not a grant. Anko Borrower program is a loan. And I very much believe, like every other intervention fund that was created under the CBN, like the Power and Airlines Fund, if the Ministry of Agriculture is saying that the fund should be domiciled with them, that they are in a better position to dispense cash or inputs to farmers, then something is wrong. Then the Ministry of Aviation will say that that money should be given to them. I think by what the program was designed, the way and manner the program was designed, it was designed in the best interest of Nigeria. CBN make provision of the fund. If you want to apply, you go to a commercial bank. The money is domiciled with a commercial bank. And all the agreements, all the requirements are spelled out as far as how you can access that fund. And you must fulfill those requirements before the commercial bank gives you out the loan. So I think that system is okay and is correct. The idea that Ministry of Agriculture will come in that they should do this, they should do that. Look, yes, it should be given to farmers. Who are the farmers? We are the farmers. We are farmers' representative. We are much more closer to the farmers. We are the farmers ourselves. So if the CBN is giving us money, it is giving it to the farmers. It's not the CBN that is giving the money, it is a commercial bank. And Nigerians should know this is a loan. This is a loan that people have sat down to guarantee. There are personal guarantees that the officials of these associations have signed. Who is going to guarantee that loan in the Ministry of Agriculture? Please, let us put things the way they are. I think the best is what the CBN has done. that money is domiciled in a commercial bank. If you want to your farmers or your members to access it, the set down rules are there. You fulfill them, you sign all the personal guarantees and what have you, and the loan is there for your members. So with the loan coming from the Ministry of Agriculture, I want to disagree. We are all civil servants. We have been in the civil service before becoming farmers. And it is out of patriotism that we left the comfort of our offices to come and be farmers. So I want to believe the bureaucratic processes that abide in our public service have been avoided. Otherwise, it will not be what it is. All the successes that we have recorded, we will not have recorded them. Yes, there is problem in recovery, I quite agree. But I believe the ministry is not in a position to go and collect loan. These are people that are supposed to be bringing up policies and drive them, but not for them to go and give out loans to go and recover loans. I'm sorry. That's not the work of an extension officer. Thank you.
Okay, yes, go ahead, please.
Let me correct an impression. Actually, the ministry is not saying that they want to be giving out loans at all. We are saying that we should be asked to provide the technical support. And this technical support can come in so many ramifications. Telling farmers what to do, how to do it, will definitely make them to get the potential yield of their crops, to be able to pay back this loan. We are now saying that there are some who have not paid back this loan. Why? Some will tell you it's because they have not get a good harvest. Some might have used the money in other way. But whatever it is, we are not saying that it is the responsibility of the Minister of Agriculture to give out loan. And that is not what we are saying at all. Because that is why we even have the Bank of Agriculture. Anything that has to do with loan, we push it to Bank of Agriculture so that they can give out this loan. They know how to recover it better. For us, it's just to make sure that we are in collaboration in terms of the operation of this loan. If you give out loan for cultivating rice, let it be for rice, not for any other crop. And let it not be for any other business, but that business of agriculture. So that is what we are saying.
All right. Back to the phone lines. Usman calling in from Sokoto. Hello, Usman. Go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes. My questions are first of all, the other man that is talking about the loans accessed from the bank. Each time we apply this CBN as a direct us to the bank, we will go there, they'll be asking us to pay 19%, 20%, nothing. So if you calculate it, maybe you want to have the 2 hectares of land. What are you doing to families to 2 hectares? And how many more are you asking money for you to have best in the farm? So we're having a lot of problems with this access the money from the bank. The week we're talking about now, the Ministry of Agriculture set some people to get hired from the ministry, which I know of some people got it in Sokoto here. But some of us that we are really doing the farming, we found it difficult to access it. I tried to get this medical seed to plant in my farm. I have like 4 no, that I planned to plant this year. I could not get it from where other people got their own. I have to ask one man in Abuja, the bureau, to get, I think, he said it's for 40,000 naira for me. If you look at the amount we are getting, and if you had that land, you look like 2 or a bat plant. It's not easy for us. But how can we access it better than we have it? Thank you.
All right, Usman. Okay. Right. Let's bring the wheat people into this conversation, and this part of it has to do with the use of technology. And one of the biggest challenges that agriculture faces in this country is, to a large extent, we're still relying on traditional methods. And so, what is the state when it comes to wheat farmers? And also extend this to the question of processing, because you represent both the farmers and the processors.
Okay, funny enough, all the questions and a lot of the comments have been mostly on wheat. That tells you a lot of people are worried about wheat as it is. And because of that, we have a lot of new farmers, like we said, that are now living the subsistence form of farming with just hoes and cutlasses. Like most times, like our association, excuse me, we have a lot of tractors, we have combined harvesters, we have harvesters, we have cutters, and all these are technologies that are deployed to our farms. So you don't need to, excuse me, you don't need to actually go out and use your hoe and cutlass. So we use the modern equipment of farming nowadays. And you have to remember that Anchor Border program is usually for 1 hectare, 2 hectares, not large form of farming. If you're doing 5 hectares, 10 hectares, you go to the central, the CA corporate. There's one other program like that on the central bank, where you go to the bank and put your equity down and your collateral down. But for the smaller subsistence farming, right now what we did was to stagger the farm preparation, land preparation for farming with our tractors. So we have a lot of implements.
How easily accessible are these implements, these modern technology?
Oh, they're quite accessible. You know, you have to remember that it's a cooperative. In each cluster, we have like 20, 30 clusters per unit. Like in Bauchi now, in the University of Bauchi there, Federal Technology there, we have a cluster of like 28 in one group, farming on a particular farmland, another small cluster, 12, 13. So the clusters request those tractors, those machineries as a group. And you then have a day, 2 days, 3 days to go do the farm preparation for them, then move to the next stage. So it's a rolling preparation thing. Like the only thing that we're having as a challenge is, okay, land preparation is down.
Right.
Where are the seeds? Where are the implements?
And that's key, because without land preparation, I mean, you can have all the equipment in the world and you're not starting.
You're not starting. Then you find that farmers will now... You have to also remember that these are farmers that 250,000, 100,000 naira, it's a lot of money to invest in a single hectare and not have to farm it and leave it fallow. That money for that single hectare, the profit of it is planned against the next farming season. So a farmer cannot afford to leave his land unplanted for too long. He has to pay school fees. He has a living to live off that land. So you find that if you leave it for too long, he says, you know what, CBN, hold this. Mr. President, hold your input. Let me go plant something else that I can use to take care of my family. So there's a time limit, especially when it comes to wheat. There's a time limit for this. It's better the government comes out and say, you know what, wheat, we're not funding you. We're not going to give you implement or whatever for this season. You go ahead and do whatever else you want to do with your land. Then having them keep the land, wait, and then farming season ends, they have lost like a quarter that they will need that funding or the money to make a living. For someone like you, Mr. Stover, 250,000 is nothing.
Really? Oh, amen.
To people like our farmers, it's a lot of money. You know what I'm talking about.
You'd be surprised. that is way beyond me. All right. But President May's association, give us your experience in this matter.
Actually, the issue of combining the two issues, the issues of the Anko Borwa program and the issue of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, it is two different things. Because I want people to understand the concept of the Anko Borwa program. Though Alaisho has already explained in details.
Okay. President May's Association, can I just ask you to hold on a bit? We'll return to you in just a moment. Let's get this call through. I guess this call has been waiting on the line for quite a while. Wujat from Jos. We'll return to you once he's done with this question. Wujat from Jos, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Please, my position is this. I really commend the federal government for all their interventions in agriculture. But where I'm a bit confused is how foreign rice will be more expensive than what we are producing. I should believe that any intervention aimed at helping the farmers be solve helping farmers to be on their feet and ensure food security for the country should come at no price at all. Why should we buy right here in our own country and way more expensive than the one we import? So this kind of things are the things that are making the American citizens not even to be happy with the government policies. And once these policies are not there to ameliorate the suffering of the poor masses, then it will not be welcome. And people will not even want to start to why people are even thinking that the CBN is doing nothing but wasting taxpayers' money with all these Anko Borwa and programs. This is why you give them the money, use the money to marry more wives, use the money to do other things because they think the government money is free. The bag of rice is now 20 to 40,000 naira. Why is it so if we are the ones going here in Nigeria? Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Wujat. So let's return to the president of the Maize Association of Nigeria. Right.
I want people to understand the concept of the Anko Borwa program generally, because many people misunderstand or misinterpret the word borrower, which means it is a loan that is being given to the farmers. But CBN is not giving a loan directly, either to the farmers or to the association. You must come through the commercial banks. As how Alaji Show said, that money is being domiciled in the commercial banks, and you must fulfill all the requirements before getting that loan to the farmers. So therefore, farmers are getting this loan directly from the association, because a bank cannot give individual farmers loan without any collateral. Even we are the leaders of the Commodity Association, we have to sign a personal guarantee, to personalize guarantee to the farmers for them to produce food in the country. So therefore you can see that it is something that it cannot go directly. And the issue of Anko Borwa in general, as how other callers, Shitu and Umar said earlier, it is something that physically it has yielded a very good result. There's no doubt about it. But in most cases, you can see that some people who does not belong to this Anko Borough or to the part of it are criticizing the program. Why? Because they are not part of it, or they didn't benefit from the Anko Borough program. I bet you Anko Borough program is the only program that empower farmers, especially in this administration, from grass to great. Because our farmers benefited, their lives have changed. Holistically, their life has changed. So therefore, anybody who is criticizing the Anko Borough program, he is an enemy of this government. Why? Because they have succeeded. There is no doubt about it. Because the most important thing, that is to provide food security. If you, all of us, we can recall, during this COVID-19 pandemic is a global issue, which each and every country closed their borders. There is no any exportation of food commodity to any country. But there was no any shortage of food security in Nigeria. Also, our border was closed. Our president said that we must produce what we eat. And that's what happened. If you look at the exportation of rice, maize, and other commodities like cotton, there was no more importation of these commodities, but we have produced more than enough. So it is something that is very clear. It is something that is very clear that Anko Boros has yielded a very good result, and it has impacted the lives of Nigerians. So
let me just stay with you a little while longer and bring up this matter of costs, which we said would return to the question of costs of inputs and particularly fertilizer. If I were to ask you now, you gave the cost of fertilizer earlier on. Remind us what fertilizer costs now.
Fertilizer, because our own is a special blend. Because of our fertilizer last year, it was 14,000 naira per bag. But this year, the price has now raised up to 28 to 30,000 naira per 50 kg.
28 to 30. How affordable is that for, the large, the large numbers of your farmers? How affordable is that?
That's why I said the other factors that contributed in the shortage of maize production is also the cost of the inputs, which fertilizer is among them. That is why. So most of our farmers, they have used the other fertilizer, which is 20, 10, 10, or 15, 15, because of the high cost of this special blend. So the only few of them can be able to afford and get this fertilizer. But if to say that there is support as usual from the CBN, so because farmers, they are not going to get the money to buy, but they will get it directly as a loan. And they will not worry about the price because they know the importance and the value of that fertilizer. They will accept it because at the end, it will give them a very good result in their yields.
Yes.
Government the world over support farmers in every form possible. They subsidize a lot of these inputs. So fertilizers, seeds are meant to be subsidized by the government. Farmers are not poor people. We're not meant to be poor. But circumstances happen to everyone. So we would expect, we would hope, we're pleading that the federal government will come to our aid, especially after this flood, to actually subsidize. And let's continue the program the way it should be, and let's move forward.
Well, the director is here, and I see the response to the question of fertilizer, 30,000. That's...
I agree with you. Really, the issue of fertilizer is something else. That is why the federal government, in its own wisdom, had this negotiation with government of Morocco so that we can do a kind of trade by barter. They give us some of the raw materials for blending the fertilizer, and that is why government also in its own wisdom allow blending plants to be in most of the states. We have about 26 states that have their own blending plants. That will support blending fertilizer that is appropriate for their soil type in that state. And at the same time, it is going to be cheaper. But I don't want to say Nigerian factor. It is becoming very difficult for you to even see the fertilizer again. People,
what's responsible for that?
I don't know. We have to ask that question. It is not enough. That is why the cost is very high. It's just a law of demand and supply. So if we have these blending plants really blending this fertilizer, it should be available.
Could it be that there are cartels that are buying up and...
but if they are buying, why are they taking it?
I may be naive, but we'll look at when the government set up the 14th blending plant when Mr. President came back from Morocco, the first tenure that he went. Now, how many farmers were farming then? How many Nigerians were farmers?
That is it.
Right now, I think we have more than tripled, quadrupled the number of farmers now farming, youth in farming compared to when Mr. President started. So this government basically has actually brought in, you see so many programs on TV on agriculture. Before, you don't see a lot of those agricultural programs. People say farmers, they just throw you off like that. So I think it's more now that we now have a larger number of farmers, so we need a lot more blending plants. I might be naive, that maybe there may be, like you said, cartels, but I want to think it's the number of farmers.
Let me put the question generally. What can be done? Perhaps Shehu Muazu or Bello Abubakar Puntua, what can be done to deal with this matter of fertilizer price 30,000? What can be done?
Sure, fertilizer, this is where we have to appreciate the vision of Mr. President when he set up the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. You see, it is their own job. It is what they do that makes us to have fertilizer at that cost we are having it, very cheap. And when there was heat, the Fertilizer Initiative Committee went into limbo. We can all see the effect. Just like the effect of suspending the Ankobora program financing, it has just opened up that, look, ad hoc arrangements cannot take us anywhere. What I'm trying to say is this. While we were operating the presidential initiative on fertilizer, we should have looked inward. What is it that we are bringing in from Morocco? Phosphate. We have abundance of phosphate in Sokoto State. That is enough to produce whatever quantity of fertilizer we want to produce. We have the urea, which is a major component of it, produced from our petrochemical industries. So while we were bringing in the potash from Morocco, we will have looked inward before the Morocco phosphate ceases and we have started producing our own. So that the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative will have transformed into a very big and viable industry, such that with local sourcing of the phosphate, the fertilizer price will be very cheap. So this is it. The best way is, let us look inwards. It is always the issue of looking inwards. Depending on importation will not take this country anywhere. We are a country of 220 million Nigerians. With this size, with this market, and we are importing fertilizer, it's not possible. Or we are importing raw materials from Morocco. It was a good thing to import initially, but it should be scaled down and then we upscale our local production of phosphate. And this will see us through.
Perhaps the president of the Maize Association will have an input on that.
The issue is that we want to advise the government to restructure the policy on this fertilizer or the issue of fertilizer initiative program on by the president. Once that would be restructured so that it can go along with the line of the needs of the farmers. And also, there is a need to have a stakeholders meeting between the manufacturers, the policymakers, the farmers, so that it is there that everything can be deliberated. What are the challenges? What are the problems? How are we going to solve these problems? How are we going to face the challenges? What is the way forward? That is it.
All right. Well, we're getting to that point of the program where we begin to wind down. So I must return to you, Engineer Abdullahi Abubakar.
Yeah.
Nigerians are concerned, and so many have talked about the prospect of food shortages in the coming year, and with the rising cost of everything, virtually everything, so many Nigerians are worried that many might not be able to afford food come next year. But quite recently, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development was reported to have said in public that there should be no concerns about food shortages, trying to reassure the Nigerian public that things have been put in place. But we're seeing so many challenges here, especially some that have been raised on this program tonight.
Yeah.
Can the Federal Ministry of Agriculture still stick out its neck and say there won't be food shortages next year?
Actually, I'm very optimistic there won't be food shortages because the population of farmers in this country is increasing day by day. Fortunately, we have 97 million hectares of land that is arable in this country. So the issue of where to cultivate what is not the issue. We are very happy that people are really interested in agriculture and people are going into agriculture. The Minister of Agriculture, in its own wisdom, is trying to support all those that want to be in agriculture. At least some of these inputs we give them free, like the seeds and some of the equipments during rollout we give them on gratia. So it is going to be successful. At least people that are interested in agriculture will definitely do agriculture. We know there are some that are just by way of mouth, they want to be in agriculture, but really they are not practicing it. But those that are practicing day by day, they are getting interested and they are getting bumper harvest for their farm, from their farms. And I think it is also encouraging that the Minister of Agriculture is seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, because when you look at the production statistics, it's increasing day by day. If not because of this flooding, I want to assure you the harvest of this 2022 would have been very, very high. Because when we were beginning of the rainy season, we were afraid because of the rains were not forthcoming. But in the middle, the rain was stabilized to the extent that it even go above what we were expecting. But if not because of that one, I'm telling you, the harvest would have been very bumper and people would have really smiled while going to their farms. But I think the efforts should be sustained. The government should also support the farmers, and I'm sure it is going to be good for us.
Okay. Well, it is on that note we must leave this conversation. I always say that no one program can take care of all the issues. The biggest one takeaway here is that we're not likely to be hungry next year, are we? Okay, I like my food.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank you, Engineer Abdullahi Garba Abubakar, Director, Federal Department of Agriculture, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Cyril. Thank you very much.
And our big thanks to Princess Shola Amushitan, President, National Wheat Farmers, Processors and Marketers Association of Nigeria. That's a big combo there.
The only female.
All right. So, okay. Yeah, you do it better than the men.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. So, Bello Abubakar Anur Funtua, President, Maize Association of Nigeria, would like to thank you for your input. Thank you for coming on this program. Thank you so much. And Shehu Muazu, Financial Secretary, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, we also thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. We like to see more of those pyramids, and hopefully these issues will be resolved. Thank you for coming. All right. And so thank you too for being part of this program, for those who called in, and for you who've been part of it, we thank you. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.